Welcome on, welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of January 31st to February 6th. I'm your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Les Misérables and the Oscar-nominated shorts.
But we do like to start off the show each week with a movie of the week recommendation, something that everybody should be seeing. And we actually we've adapted it a little bit this week because we're both recommending the same film, and it will be in a theater. So this will be a theatrical experience movie of the week recommendation.
Yeah, and sadly, it's under sad circumstances that we're recommending this. Here at the Cedarly, we lost a dear friend and colleague, our friend RJ, who many of you who have been regulars at the Cedarly would have seen over the last 19 years that he's worked at the Cedarly, and he passed away suddenly. He was only 36, so it's very sad. We're all still kind of in shock. And we are going to be showing one of his favorite films. He loved Wes Anderson movies, and we are going to be showing Moonrise Kingdom in his honor, which is a great movie that I loved myself. So we're making that the movie pick of the week. We're going to be showing that on Tuesday, February 4th at 7 o'clock. And it's a special screening that's going to be a fundraiser to help his family cover, the expenses of his funeral and other needs that they have right now. So if you're available and can come to the Cedarly and help us honor our friend, we'd appreciate it that you come out and see that movie on Tuesday, February 4th at 7 o'clock.
So you sent me a text asking some of RJ's favorite movies, which
I did.
I got to say, working with somebody, I was working with RJ for 13 years at the theater, and that was a tough list to put together. One, just because it was very, fresh and raw, but also just that he had such perfectly unique tastes in movies that even knowing him for that long, like I would assume he would react a certain way to a movie, or I would recommend something to him that was like, oh, this is right up your alley. And he would just constantly, and he's very sincere about it. He didn't mince his words when he didn't like something. He would just not necessarily trash the movie because he was a loving guy. He wasn't that mean about it, but he was just like, oh, it didn't speak to me. I was like, are you kidding me? And then he would I remember he walked out of Fading Gigolo with John Turturro and Woody Allen, and he was like, that movie was great. And I was like, I don't understand, RJ. I don't get your taste.
I wasn't expecting that.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's interesting. Like when you texted me, you were like, I know he loved Rushmore was probably his favorite Wes Anderson movie, but because the Disney overlords will not allow us to show Rushmore, we had to pick another Wes Anderson movie. But you also had suggested, in addition to Moonrise Kingdom, possibly Dave Chappelle's Block Party, which was kind of we were torn between those two because he loved Dave Chappelle a lot too.
Yeah.
But since it just, I don't know, Moonrise Kingdom is just such a joyful kind of movie, and I think that it'll be a great way to pay tribute to him. So,
well, it's also you want to have something that people are going to come out and you kind of want to, I don't want to say cast a wide net, but like you want something that's like a good thing for people to just kind of join around, have some, catharsis with it, and you don't want to end it. You want to end it on a happy note. You don't want it to be. You want it to be kind of redemptive a little bit. It shouldn't be something that's like horribly tragic or again like a World War II Holocaust drama. It's just it wouldn't quite fit. I'd mentioned Block Party actually was one of the movies I watched this weekend too, the Dave Chappelle one, just because it perfectly encapsulated so much about RJ, but also it was the first thing we bonded over because that movie was somewhat new when I started, and I love hip hop. RJ would always have recommendations for me. What do you call like hip hop head? I guess I'm not sure what the accolades are for the term is for accolades of that, but we both love Dead Prez and Talib Kweli, and we were talking about the Roots and everything in Dave Chappelle's Block Party, and it was just one of those early conversations. Having first met him, like maybe a week or two earlier, we were just like, "Oh, we're gonna get along just fine."
Yeah,
and that's the power of film and a good story is it brings people together that don't necessarily have the same background or same interests, and it started off a 13-year plus friendship there, so that was really powerful. But no, his go-to comedy-wise, I was always sure when a Wes Anderson movie would come out that he would be into it to a certain degree. Yeah. So that was like one of the few surefire ones. I was like, all right, well, he's gonna like that one. He may throw you curveballs and some other stuff, but Wes Anderson, he was always a fan of. Like you said, specifically Rushmore. Which, if you think about Max in Rushmore, he always had like a plan for something. He was always up to something. He was always putting together some kind of show or doing something. It speaks to a lot of RJ's personality as well, I think.
I couldn't remember if he was, I mean, I know RJ was working here, but I couldn't remember if he was at the theater the day that we had Wes Anderson and Jason Schwartzman at the theater for that screening of Darjeeling Limited, if he was working or if he had to like.
He was there early in the day,
went
but
to
not
the
that
show.
night. He was
Yeah, I
he
couldn't
was a little
remember
salty.
if he was around.
That he missed that one.
Well, it was, yeah, I think it'll be a great way to honor him. So I'd encourage people. I mean, if you think like, oh, I don't remember who that is, if you're listening to this, go to our website. We have a picture of him posted. As soon as you see that, it'd be like, oh, that smiling face that was always behind the concession stand so often whenever you came here, that was RJ.
Yep.
And he was always happy to talk to people about the movies they had just seen or what they're seeing. You know, he would always give you his thoughts on it in a, like you said, in a not very, you know, never mean. He was just a sweetheart of a guy.
He also had that ability, just because he knew the regulars so well, they would come in and be like, now
Right.
should I see this or not? And he'd be like, oh, you are going to love this one. Or he would say,
Yeah,
oh, no, you
he
need
would
to
know
stay
their
away from that
taste.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he knew their taste too, but also he was the consummate, I don't know, salesman sometimes have like a negative connotation in my head, but like he could not sell you anything because he was being mean about it. He just was able to know people so well and get to know people so well that he just knew people's tastes and was a great connector of like, oh no, do not miss this one. You're going to want to see that one. And he was usually right. People would always step by him like, oh my God, I was going to skip that. I'm so glad you told me to see it. Because also he pretty much would see everything we were showing at the theater as well.
Yeah, and the one thing I've been saying to everybody is, you know, the theater's just not going to be the same place without him.
Well, along with Moonrise Kingdom, we do have a few other movies to tell you about that are opening this week. Actually, this one's going to be an interesting kind of scattershot because it's always interesting when you have 3 different shorts programs that are opening at the theater. But it's that time of the year. The Oscars are at the point that you're listening to this a little over a week away. So if you want to be a completist and fill out your full Oscar ballots, we do have the Oscar-nominated shorts landing this Friday here at the theater.
And that includes the animated, live action, and documentary programs. So you have to check the schedule. You could just, if you go to our website and just type in Oscar shorts in the search field, you'll see, you know, the 3 different titles there, and you can check the different dates and times that each of those are playing. There are some days that you'll be able to see all 3 programs. The documentary program only plays, I believe, 3 times each week. So you do need to, you know, make time for that because it's a longer program. The other ones are about regular feature length, but the documentary program is just, I think, right around 3 hours long total. And each of those docs, you know, there's a couple of them that are 40 minutes long and the other couple that are about 30 minutes long and the one that's 21. So it's a longer program. The other ones are a shorter program. But, and the one thing I do want to say about the animated program, a question we get every year about the animated program is it appropriate for kids? And this year, I just want to read what the studio officially told us as kind of guidelines about it. And it isn't that it's not appropriate for kids, it's just that the content probably doesn't appeal to children. So it is considered to be sort of like PG-13 in content, but some of the subject matter is pretty heavy and it's kind of melancholy. So these aren't kind of cute little animated movies, you know, that younger children are going to like. So if you have a more sophisticated 12, 13, 14-year-old, maybe they'll enjoy them. But if you are thinking about bringing younger kids, it might not be the program that they will enjoy.
I think I was one of those people that, even if I wasn't asked, you know, I was definitely looking those up each year because, as I mentioned with Jojo Rabbit an episode or 2 ago, looking for content you can take younger humans to is few and far between at the art house. So not this year for the animated shorts.
Correct.
Although, I guess I was trying to figure out, like, what's the good way to kind of plug these? I mean, there's a built-in audience for it because people want to see the Oscar-nominated shorts. But also, say, if you haven't seen a shorts program, like in the theater on the big screen, this is a really unique opportunity because, I mean, there was a time in film history when that was before all the feature films. And that's just hasn't been the case in our lifetimes, at least. And so this is that one unique opportunity that you get to go see a highly curated and also, you know, awards, most of the time award-winning short films as well, because as locals here in Cleveland know, the Cleveland International Film Festival is even a qualifying festival for short films as far as the Academy is concerned now. So a lot of times they're nominated for an Academy Award, but they've already won multiple festival awards at this point. So these are about as curated of a shorts program as you're going to get. Like, these are all awards, all award winners already, and potentially award winners on Oscar night as well.
And you could potentially be seeing some of the best filmmakers of the near future. So like we had talked about
True.
in a previous episode, a lot of filmmakers that are, major directors now, like Taika Waititi. His first Oscar nomination, he's nominated this year for Jojo Rabbit, but his first Oscar nomination was for directing a live action short film from 2005. So, you get to see some of these filmmakers that are kind of cutting their chops and honing their craft in these shorts programs. So it's a really great way to, and since they're short, if you don't like one, there's another one coming in just
give it a minute.
You don't, you might love the next one.
Right.
And the live action or the animated program, I should mention, it includes not only the 5 nominated films, but it also includes an additional, I think, 4 other animated shorts to kind of make it a feature length sort of program. So that one, you get to see some films that aren't nominated, but are of also some of the highest quality.
Do you know offhand, do they do it as like, those are the ones that just quite didn't make the cut, like they were in the running, but then, like each category at the Oscars, like they kind of do different ways to narrow down the field. Were these like ones that were like just barely didn't make the cut, but were close to getting nominated, like ranked wise?
I think the way that they kind of look at it is films that have won from other festivals and things. They kind of, and also since it's distributed by Shorts HD, it's probably films that they easily have access to, without having to like, hey, let's run all over the place. But I mean, that's what these people do for a living, is they watch great short films. So right. I'm sure that they have at their fingertips a great selection of shorts to, flesh out that program every year.
Sweet.
And if you're interested in seeing the Oscar-nominated shorts, you can also see them not only here at the Cedar Lee Theater, but over at our sister locations at the Apollo Theater in Oberlin, the Capitol Theater on the west side, and Chagrin Cinemas out in Chagrin Falls. And then the other film that we're opening is another Oscar nominee. It is Les Misérables. It is co-written and directed by Ladj, and it is about a cop who moves to Paris to join the anti-crime brigade, discovers an underworld where the tensions between different groups are on the rise.
Dave, this one, I feel like any other calendar year at the Academy Awards would have a really strong chance at getting the Oscar for Best International I keep screwing up the title. What's the new category?
Best International Feature Film.
Best International Feature Film this year, but it is going up against Parasite. So
it is going up against Parasite.
Yikes.
So the only way that this is going to win is if so many people just assume everybody else is voting for Parasite for other things that they go, well, we want to give something. But I hope they don't, because Parasite deserves everything that it's up for, in my opinion. So I think that Les Mis, it's a great movie, but it is going to be an also ran, I think, this year. But it's interesting because I think we had maybe discussed this on mic or off mic. I can't remember. We were talking about the rules of how the countries get to submit one film to represent them at the Oscars.
Right.
So this was the film that France had submitted. But the film that we're opening in a few weeks, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, also from France, was nominated for a Golden Globe in addition to Les Mis, and is considered, was on a lot of critics' top 10 list. It's another film that probably would have been contender, but if it weren't for the rule that only one country, or one film from each country is allowed to be submitted. So it's interesting to see that Les Mis thankfully did get that spot, or else the people that made Portrait of a Lady might have been extra mad.
That is interesting. That feels fair to me, I guess, but it also... It depends on your country as well. Like if there's like a Minister of Culture department within the country, are they the ones that submit the film, like from France or Italy or Chile or wherever? I'd be curious to see. Actually, that'd be a good documentary somebody should make of how the different countries do their own film selection. Like, is there an equivalent? A lot of different major industrialized countries have their own version of the Academy Awards that they do in their own countries. So like whoever wins the Goya Award in Spain, like do they automatically become the official Spanish entry for international feature at the Oscars or not?
I'll be curious if they stick with that title or not. I think they probably will, but I think it's problematic. But, whatever.
International feature?
I do think, the best international feature film, because, because you need to have something that it's not in the English language in there, I think. So to make people understand why, a movie that's, from Canada in English or from England doesn't count.
But hold on. But then England... Like, because British films are like nominated for Best Picture all the time and have won,
right?
But they don't count as international.
As international, no. Apparently,
I really never gave that a thought until you just said it that way.
Yeah, That's why I think it's probably something they need to tweak a little bit.
Yeah.
But who knows? Huh. The thing that I'm getting back to the point that only one film from each country is allowed to be submitted, I think they need to have more leeway on that. I think it should be based on the percentage of films or the number of films that your country produces every year.
Okay.
So like if your country makes, like India puts out
like 900 or whatever thousand.
As many movies a year as America does, they should be allowed to submit, 3. And maybe if you make over like 100 films, you're allowed to make, submit 2. I don't know. There should just
like a
be
ratio
more
to
room
it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. A ratio to the percentage of the films that you actually get to, submit versus how many are produced in the country. Because there are some countries literally that maybe only 1 or 2 feature films are produced within that country in a year. For a variety of reasons, although I think that's changed a little bit now because of digital. The price and everything is less of a hurdle for some countries to overcome. But when a country only has maybe 1 million residents in it or whatever, how vibrant can their film community be?
Right, or even like Atlantics from Senegal this year. Like I was trying to do a little bit of research to find out well, how many movies does Senegal make? Like this is an astounding film, and I wanted to see more from that country, but. That's rough going.
Not a lot.
But,
yeah.
Well, going back to this new Les Miserables real quick, as you just said in the description, it's not the standard Victor Hugo, Les Mis movie.
Yes. This is not a musical.
Yeah. Right. So it's interesting that it would still, because that's such an iconic name, to order to take that and kind of, rebrand it with a different story is really fascinating. But also it ties in what we were saying with the short films and getting in on the ground floor with new directing talent. Ladj is a feature film debut. Les Mis is his feature film debut, so getting like such strong international acclaim. It opened at the Cannes Film Festival back in May 2019. Very, very strong critical reaction. I think it's like 80+% on Metacritic. It's one of those like a new voice in French cinema. So if you're also just a student of world cinema and like to keep an eye on the emerging talent, this is definitely one of those you're going to want to check out in the theater.
And I would encourage you, if you do want to see it in the theater, don't wait too long. It's opening on a split schedule for us just because we're so crowded right now around Oscar season, trying to get some of these films on screen so you can have access to them. But it probably won't be here too long. So it could end up being here only just 1 week, or it might only be here for 2 weeks. So don't, if you're anxious to see it, don't put it off too long, or you might miss your chance to see it in the theater.
And we'll be right back with the special events this week coming up at the theater. Special events are becoming a bigger and bigger portion of the modern theatrical programming, so we like to take a little bit of time each show to let you know about the special events coming up here at the theater.
The first special event we have this week is the Met Opera Live in HD presenting the Gershwins' Porgy and Bess. That's going to be playing Saturday, February 1st at 12:55 p.m. in the live presentation. And then there's an encore presentation Wednesday, February 5th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the Gershwins' modern American masterpiece, and it has its first Met performances in almost 3 decades. It's starring bass baritone Eric Owens and soprano Angel Blue in the title roles.
I have never, as much as I like musicals, I have never seen Porgy and Bess.
Really?
It is an odd one. Yeah, I don't know why it's escaped me up until now.
I've never seen like a stage. I've seen the film, but I have not seen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have prefaced that. Not live. I haven't seen it live either, but no, I haven't seen the film, which I know I should because I do love a good musical, and Gershwins are no slouch in the musical department.
And that will be playing not only at the Cedar Lee, but it's also going to be playing at Chagrin Cinemas as well as the Apollo Theater.
Also coming up is the Melt Bar and Grilled Late Shift film series. This month, we are presenting Fargo, the Coen brothers classic. How method movie going can that be if we get a great killer snowstorm like Friday going into that weekend, and then we have like a perfectly cold, snowy Cleveland for everybody to go watch Fargo on Saturday, February 1st at 9:30 p.m. at midnight, and a third show Sunday, February 2nd at 7 p.m.
And I'd be lying if I didn't say that when I scheduled that and booked that movie, that is what I intentionally do. I'm like, it's a good winter movie. Because even if it snows, it just puts you in the mood
I was going to put you in the mood for it, but also it's Cleveland. It could be 65 and rainy on that day, so we'll find out.
And we also, this week for the Melt Bar and Grilled Late Shift, have our monthly showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That is Saturday, February 1st at midnight, with a live floor show, of course, by Simply His Servants.
And just a reminder, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we are having the memorial screening in honor of R.J. Lacy, the showing of Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom, Tuesday, February 4th at 7 p.m. And if you're a regular listener and are wondering where our Cedarly 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head over to our social media accounts. We've been wrapping up the calendar year of film that was 2019 with our posts over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. So this week we thought we're going to do our Best Picture picks for films that are not nominated for Best Film at the Oscars for 2019. So our picks for the Best Pictures of the year that were not nominated at the Oscars. And aside from that, join us next Thursday when we'll have a new Cedarly Radio episode for you. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.